No way in and no way out on Saturday when police erect a ring of steel around the city to keep violent anti-lockdown protesters away. The unprecedented clamp will include shutting down Melbourne's public transport network. Mimi Becker reports.
It's ugly, violent and a public health risk. That's why
we will be temporarily suspending the public transport network on Saturday morning. We'll be suspending that between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m.
Chief Commissioner Shane Patton desperate to avoid scenes like this. Anti-lockdown protests that have injured officers and sparked public outrage.
What that means is that any buses will bypass the city, any trams will be stopped before the city, return to their junctions, and trains will not come into the city during that period of time.
Victoria Police is taking no chances and going one step further.
In addition to the lockdown of the transport network, we will also be, in effect, locking down the city for that period of time. We'll have hard barricades, we'll have traffic management points, we'll have roving patrols. We will be doing everything we can to prevent access to the city.
A freedom rally has been planned for this weekend. 2,000 police will enforce the stay-at-home orders. As a result, as many as 20 police stations will be closed to the public.
This is the biggest game in town for us to stop this occurring.
Force Command warning fines of up to $5,500 will be dished out.
We are planning for the worst and hoping for the best.
Mimi's in the heart of the city tonight. Mimi.
All right, Big J. So I watched the video. I have a gist of what's going on. People are pissed off. They don't like the lockdowns. They want to get back to work. And also the economy is struggling. So people want to gather to protest these lockdowns. And I'm guessing mandates too?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, it's getting completely out of hand because if you're unaware, Victoria, the state that I live in, the smallest state in the country of Australia, has been the longest, has had the longest lockdowns over the 18-month period that COVID has been going on. We were shut down for 29 weeks last year. I think it was around then, 29 weeks, right? And now we've been locked down for probably close to another 18 or 19 this year. So
and really quick, what do the lockdowns entail? Like basically, what happens during in Australia and Melbourne, Victoria lockdown?
Okay, so it's different for every state, but in Melbourne, Metro Melbourne, you can only go outside. If you're in lockdown, stage 4 lockdown, they have different stages, right? You can only go outside for 2 hours of exercise. You can only go outside for essential work, which you need a permit for. You need a permit to go to work. Getting groceries and medical, either getting a jab, getting a COVID test, or seeing a doctor. That's it. It's the only reasons you can go outside. There's a 5 kilometre radius on that. So if you go for a run outside the 5K zone where you live, they'll slap you with an $1,800 fine. And there's been plenty of videos on social media of people getting pulled up by the police. What are you doing here? $1,800 fine. Personally, I think sure you can go for a run without going 5Ks, but it's ridiculous. It's taking, people have lost businesses. Children are at school. My kids haven't been to school for damn near 2 years.
Wow.
They've lost 6 months last year.
I didn't know the school thing is a big deal.
Oh, damn right. Damn right. I've got 3 in school. The youngest one, because she's in grade 2, so she's 2nd grade. They're allowing prep, which is like first grade, year 2, and year 12 are the only ones, which is the senior years. They're the only ones allowed to go to school. Everyone else is sitting at home. And that's been going on since, May? May of this year?
And what are the cases? What are the cases? Are thousands of people dying, thousands of people being hospitalized?
No. At the moment, it's because Delta's got in. At the moment, I think we had between 300 and 400 cases in Victoria today. That's it.
And what's about the population of Victoria?
7 million. 5 of that would be in Melbourne alone.
Crazy, and they shut down. Yeah, I'm looking as of September 20, as of September 2020, about a year ago, close to 6.7 million.
There would be significantly less than that, because I can tell you, and I'm doing this the second I get it, people are leaving Victoria in droves. They're moving to Queensland, they're moving to South Australia, they're moving to Tasmania, because people just can't take these lockdowns anymore. People are sick of it. People have lost their livelihoods, their jobs, kids are not getting education. There's just no point living in Victoria anymore. Victoria's lost its appeal. I'm a Queenslander, not that Victoria had any appeal in the first place, in my opinion. You know, Victoria is known for its sporting events and its culture. It's sort of like our version of New York. You know, big sporting events, big culture events, theatre. We don't really have Broadway, but, you know, those sort of things. You know, a big Broadway show comes to Melbourne. You know, we have big sporting events. 3 out of the top 5 sporting events in the country happen in Melbourne. The AFL Grand Final, the tennis, the Australian Open happens in Melbourne. The Boxing Day cricket test happens in Melbourne. Pretty much every big major sporting event, bar the rugby league, happens in Melbourne. We've lost all that now. We've lost the AFL Grand Final not once but twice. It's in WA this year. They're playing it in Perth in a week and a half. So
these freedom protests are basically, you know, people who've lost their livelihood, who, you know, are staying. But, you know, I can only imagine like the small business owners, you know, who own the small shops, maybe, you know, even the low wage workers where, you know, they barely had anything anyway. And now, you know, you're extending lockdowns for, you know, less than 500 people, you know, being infected. And then God knows, I can only imagine that, you know, it's not, you know, the death rate is not that high. And if it is, you know, even though we want to protect everyone, you know, it's pretty much people with underlying conditions were already on their way out, or the elderly. And from my understanding, the elderly are even surviving.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I think there was only 1 death today.
Outrageous.
There has been deaths. Okay, here's something that outrage. You remember the Ballarat mum? Remember the lady that got arrested for incitement? Remember they did that video on?
Yes, I remember that.
Ballarat mum?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ballarat's putting back into a 7-day snap lockdown, stage 4 restrictions for guess how many cases? Have a guess.
I'm going to say 10, less than 10.
Wrong, 5.
5 cases, and they're locking down the whole economy that's losing millions a day.
Mm-hmm. That's Ballarat. Ballarat is a regional city of Victoria, about an hour away from Melbourne. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, in the opposite direction. Now, I'm southwest, it's northwest. And they're locking it down for 5 cases. That's it.
I can't wrap my head around. You know, as we talked about, you know, in just our recent video, boxing related, you know, the short-term gain for long-term pain, like the long-term consequences of this. As you said, your children have been out of school for what, 2 years? If you know, two years. So
pretty much, because compared to the rest of the country, especially my sister who lives up back home in Rocky, her eldest girl hasn't missed a beat. She missed 2 weeks over the last 2 years. My kids have missed out on virtually 12 months. And 6 months last year. And
all of that, you know, time for young children to communicate with each other, to learn social skills, you know, the damage. We may not really see the damage of all of this, you know, for...
Oh, I'm saying it, trust me.
Yeah, I mean, see, exactly. So I can't understand what's the logic behind this, and if it's not something more sinister, because, you know, that's got to be what people are thinking, especially when they're, you know, ready to go into the streets, and that law enforcement is going through such great lengths to make sure that these protests don't happen. But what do they expect people to do? For the government to keep telling them, no, you can't open your business, no, you can't go out, no, you can't send your kids to school, and they just want people to stay at home, when literally they're looking at the numbers and seeing that, you know, people are not dying, you know, like they were before, or the fact that, you know, overall around the world numbers are going down. I don't get it.
I don't get it, and they're using all these things, you know. Pro-jab ads. Go get your jab. Go get this. Go get that. You know, they want, like New York, they want to bring in that if you're not fully vaccinated, you can't go to a restaurant. You can't do this. You can't do that. That's the way that they're going to start bringing that in this state. And I'm not hanging around for this. The second the borders open in Queensland, I'm going back home. Back at this.
Yeah,
I've never been a huge fan of Victoria in the first place, and I want to go back to my home state where there isn't any virus.
yeah. So let me play this clip right here from that same news
Nine
report
News.
about the numbers.
But at midnight tonight, Shepparton will be released from lockdown, with no new cases among today's 423 local infections, pushing the state's active cases above 4,000.
88% are in our northern and western suburbs in those really well-defined postcodes of priority.
Of the 173 Victorians in hospital, 44 are getting intensive care, 23 need machines to breathe. A man in his 70s from Wyndham has died, as has 46-year-old Martin Blight, who was due to be vaccinated 2 days after his death.
If we opened up tonight, as some are urging us to do, with less than 50% of people double vaxxed, then there will be hundreds and hundreds of stories just like his.
Ending lockdown immediately was at the very top of Matthew Guy's press release.
Have a look at the wording on that, but I apologise if that's incorrect.
Number one.
It should certainly be the curfews should end immediately.
Tim Smith pointing to a Murdoch Children's Research Institute paper stating COVID-19 disease in children and adolescents is rarely severe. The main risks to children and adolescents continues to be due to indirect effects on mental health, well-being and education, which are worsened by continued lockdowns and school closures.
Get the kids back to school, particularly those doing year 11 and 12. Those doing VCE.
After more than 80 complaints, the Ombudsman is investigating the legality of locking thousands of Victorians like Steve Conn out of his home state.
We're just sitting here waiting and hoping that we don't go broke in the meantime. Otherwise, we will be homeless.
To try and strike that.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. And the long-term effects to children, especially those ones, in the younger grades. That interaction, and also to teenagers, and young teens, just being away from their friends. Like, you can't keep these kids in the house. And especially when...
No. Yeah, it's great. As I said, I've got a 14, a 12, a 7 and a 4-year-old, right? And, yeah, they just sit around doing not much all day. As I said, the 7-year-old can go to school, but the older two can't. What do you expect them to do all day?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm lucky I get to go to work, but I need a permit to go to work. But let's not get into that. Yeah, but they're just sitting around doing not much all day, and it's not good. They're finally realising that the actual for children, the cure is worse than the disease, because not many children are getting COVID, right? And if they are, they're not severe cases, all right? And they're keeping the kids at home for what reason?
Yeah.
It's just insane, and this is going to, as we spoke about this other day, this is going to take like a decade to fix.
Yeah,
it's going to be a generational thing. This could take 20 years to fix. You got all these kids, all these young adults sitting at home with their thumb up their ass doing bugger all because they don't learn fuck all over Zooms.
Yeah, they can't. It's not the same.
They learn absolutely nothing. They're not doing any exercise. Because they're not allowed to play sport. They're not allowed to go to school. They're not allowed to play sport. They're not allowed to do anything. Right? There was a point there where they locked down the playgrounds. You couldn't even take your 4-year-old to a playground. Big sign, closed, do not play on playground. Seriously. And, they're wasting all these resources on Saturday. 2,000 cops in the CBD. What do you think the real crims are going to do?
Yeah, they're going to have a field day.
Exactly.
Cops are going to be occupied.
Cops are going to be occupied, so what do you think the real crooks are going to get up to?
Yeah.
Ring the dinner bell. Let me tell you a story. I was in the army up in Townsville, right? They used to have these media releases. 6,000 soldiers are heading down the road to go to Rockhampton for an 8-week exercise. And people wondered why the house break-ins went through the roof when the soldiers took off for 8 weeks. Why would you tell the public that? It's just bloody stupid. But, why are they wasting all that resources? They've got all that they've stopped all the public transport, and yet they're still going to put 2,000 cops there? They shut down 20 police stations for a protest that they don't want anyone to go to, that no one will turn up to, because they can't get into the CBD unless they walk or ride. It's the only way they're going to get in. I can't fathom it.
Closing thoughts?
I can't wait till the borders open so I can go back to Queensland.
Is there any time frame on when the borders may be open?
Oh, Palaszczuk, don't get me started on her. She's the Premier of Queensland. You know, she doesn't want anyone coming into the state unless you're a professional sports person. No, who knows? I mean, the borders, I think once they actually get to 70% fully vaxxed, they'll probably start opening up. But as I said, the Federal Treasurer has said these lockdowns are no longer economically viable. The country needs to open up because this is getting beyond the joke because tourism's dead, right? Tourism's dead in this country. Your travel agents, they've all shut down. They haven't been open for 18 months. Yeah. So the economy is losing billions of dollars because you can't even, you know, Melbourne people have been told don't come to regional Victoria. You can't come to regional Victoria, we'll fine you. $1,800 fine if you come to regional Victoria. If you want to go for a weekend away. Or was it $5,000? I don't know, some ridiculous amount of money that they're going to find you if they catch you outside of. If you live in Metro Melbourne and you go outside to, say, down to Torquay for a swim at Bells Beach, or you've heard of Bells Beach, right?
Yeah, I did.
Big surf beach. Yeah. They'll slap you with a couple of $1,000 fine if you're from Metro Melbourne.
Crazy.
What's that? Why? Oh,
well,
we can go on this for hours,
yeah.
But you know.
Well, we'll wrap up right there and follow the situation, you know, as it develops. This is TstreeT Controversy, and Big J. Please take your time out. Follow me on Twitter at TstreeT Controversy and Big J at Old Mate Big J. I'm going to put the link down below in the description box. Take your time out. We're going to be putting out more content like this more often, especially since, you know, boxing is being boxing. Please take your time out, like the video, and subscribe.